Alrighty, so we have Joanne Calderwood versus Lauren Murphy. So Calderwood is 1 inch taller. Lauren Murphy has a 2 inch reach advantage. Lauren Murphy has really turned her career around. She started her UFC career 2-4. Now she's on a 4 fight win streak. So good on her. She's nearly 38. So obviously a late bloomer, I guess. And for Calderwood, she's 4-4 in her last 8. Although she has faced much better competition, a much higher level of competition than Lauren Murphy. For Murphy, she's mostly a boxer, comes in with that forward pressure, really doesn't care what you hit her with, she just keeps coming forward. And for Calderwood, her hands definitely aren't her best weapons, but her boxing is improving. Like, it seems to be improving every fight. She'll throw a 1-2, she's mixing it in with her kicks a lot better now, and I think that was really exemplified in the Jessica Eye fight. But mostly, she's coming from that Muay Thai background, so she uses a lot of kicks, a lot of teeps, a lot of lead leg offense. And she's always throwing combinations. She's mixing it in well lately. She uses all 8 limbs. She'll mix in knees, elbows. She'll get into the clinch as well. Knees to the body in the clinch, elbows in the clinch. Murphy's okay in the clinch too. She uses a lot of strength in the clinch, and she has some nice framing knees to the head in the clinch. She is quite strong, naturally. But one thing Calderwood does that Murphy doesn't generally do too much is that she will attack pretty much every limb of her opponent. So the legs, she uses a lot of lead leg kicks to really damage the opponent's lead leg, like the teeps to the body, teeps to the lead leg, low calf kicks, roundhouse body kicks, push kicks to the body. She really doesn't discriminate with where she's throwing her offense. But with that Muay Thai background, she can just keep her head on the center line, and she is quite hittable in boxing range. Like, she keeps her chin up, she's generally concentrating on her own combination when she's in the pocket and not really concerned about the defense of her opponent, and she can get caught with her chin in the air. And she seems to have problems with fighters with good movement, as she is quite plodding with that Muay Thai style. Like, if you get a good boxer with good movement, she seems to have a lot of trouble with that. Like, say, Cynthia Calvillo in their fight, she really had trouble with that. Chikagian just kind of touched her up from distance. She was just a step ahead of her, really, in that fight. And for the grappling side of this fight, both these guys are known to mix in takedowns every now and then. I think Lauren Murphy a bit more as a game plan. I think more of Calderwood's kind of reactive when she catches a kick and then works for a takedown of her own, similar to as you would see in like Muay Thai fights. And for Lauren Murphy, her takedowns are quite reactive as well, generally going for the double leg if the opponent's being a little too over-aggressive, or they want to relieve the forward pressure that Lauren is putting on them, and they try to burst forward with a combination. She'll either level change for a double leg, or she'll go for a hard 2 down the pipe. And she generally goes for takedowns at the end of the round. I think she knows what she's doing. I think she knows she's trying to win the round, and I think a lot of the time that does, happen to be the difference maker. And I think, that's smart on her behalf. How these guys win fights, so Lauren Murphy, she's durable, but I don't think she wears damage very well. Seems to mark up very easily, seems to have a lot of scar tissue. Yeah, I just think she gets cut up pretty easily. Like, she just doesn't seem to wear damage very well. Calderwood, she has good chin as well. She takes shots well. When she takes shots, it doesn't look like they affected her too much. Like, she seems to just have a solid chin, solid head on her shoulders. And she has good volume as well, and that's pretty much how she wins a lot of her fights, just non-stop volume. And how these guys lose fights, so for Calderwood, it's the takedown defense. Her takedown defense isn't great. Her striking tendencies that we discussed before. And for Lauren Murphy, it's that she's quite hittable on the feet. She doesn't have the best striking defense. Also, you can kind of predict where she's going to be. Like, her movement is quite predictable. And generally, when she gets a step up in competition is when she loses fights. So I'll go through a record here. So yeah, Shakirova, not very good, but, fun fighter, but she's still not very good. Modafferi, not very good, you should really beat Modafferi. Andrea Lee, which is a good win, but I don't think she won that fight. I think it was pretty clearly Lee that won the fight, so I don't really rate it as a win, honestly. I think, she was getting touched up for the most part. Barella, she got cut, pretty sure, soon. Maybe had one fight in the UFC after that. But I'm more talking about this, so like, Sajara Eubanks, she lost. Step up against Chikagian, she lost. Step up against Carmouche, step up against McMahon, she lost. And then the rest of them are just like kind of not the best type of fighters, all of her wins. Her best win is Andrea Lee, and I don't think she won it, honestly. I don't think it was even close. And I was very surprised that she won that decision, so she's definitely living up to her nickname in that one. So yeah, we'll go back to it. Alright, so past the victory for these two. So for Lauren Murphy, since she doesn't move her head off center line too much, look to really sit down on your two and look to do some serious damage, because I do think Lauren Murphy has some decent raw power. Maybe she's quite strong, for the weight class, so I think that might translate into power if she really sits down on her offense. I think you should look to catch one of JoJo's kicks and then look to ground her, get some top control from there. Also, for both of these guys, I think they should go for takedowns at the end of the round, especially if it's a close round. Just, try to put some icing on it, really. And for JoJo, look for that step-in elbow. I think Roxy cut Lauren Murphy pretty badly with a step-in elbow, so I think that's quite a good technique to actually use against someone who cuts easy like Lauren Murphy, and someone who's, quite predictable with their movement. So I think that could be a good weapon for you in this fight. Also, knees to the body in the clinch. Just look to really damage her in the clinch. So how I see this fight going. So I think Joanne should win on the feet with her volume, but, Murphy could definitely make it competitive with her forward pressure, just keeping up the volume with JoJo. Both can take the other down, but neither have very good top control, so I think it'll be a lot of nothing takedowns maybe at the end of the round, and that might decide the winner, But in these, mid-tier striker versus striker battles for women's MMA, you're probably better off just picking the dog if you're a better, because the activity is probably going to be relatively the same. Both these guys won't be landing too many power shots, so yeah, I can see why the judges find it hard to pick a winner in these type of fights. It sometimes the differential is just a late takedown at the end of the round. I feel like that's how they pick a lot of the time, because generally these mid-tier striker versus striker fights, their volume is the same, the power is generally 0 for both, so, I can see why the judges have a hard time picking these type of fights, and I can see why the line is the way it is at the moment, but I do feel like Calderwood should win, just based on the variety that she can mix it up with, and just the volume that she can keep. I think she's going to be able to keep Lauren Murphy at bay just enough. She'll either win a 30-27 or a 29-28, in my opinion, and I think, it definitely goes to decision, so that's how I think the fight plays out. So I think Joanne Calderwood gets it done by decision, but, I think the line's basically correct. I got Calderwood winning around 55% of the time, and 45% of the time I think Lauren Murphy wins, so I think it's a pretty close fight, If I was to bet anybody, it'd just be the dog, but I don't really want to bet Lauren Murphy unless she gets up to $2.20 or, whatnot, because, technique for technique, Calderwood is better, but Murphy can just make it a dog fight, and yeah, I don't know, you don't want to bet the favourite in these women's MMA striker versus striker type matchups unless they're really, really good on the feet, and I'd say Calderwood isn't really, really good. I'd say she's good, but she lets opponents get into the fight, and she is, a bit of a tit-for-tat fighter on this scene, so yeah, you can't really trust her at that price, but if she were to get to pick 'em odds, then I'd probably bet Calderwood, because I do think she wins, yeah. I think she should be the favourite, but I think the line is correct.